I couldn't resist trying to finish this house that somebody started building. It's like finding a jigsaw puzzle unfinished. I just can't leave them alone. The house is terrific, isn't it, with the chimney and the skylight and the balcony? But the wall wasn't finished, so I've been adding some more blocks to it. We're getting there. You know, in some ways, you and this house are alike. Does that sound strange? I'll bet it does. Well, what is the house made of? That's right, it's made of blocks, little plastic blocks. You too are made of blocks, only yours are living blocks. You are made of little tiny living parts called cells. Did you know that? Well, no one knew that until a man named Robert Hooke started exploring the world with his microscope. His microscope didn't look like the modern one that I have, but it did the same thing. It made things look bigger. And he was interested in making things look bigger so that he could see them better. Let's take a look at some of the things he might have looked at through his microscope. Just a sec till I get this speck on here. There. This is a grain of salt. Under the microscope, you can see that it's really lots and lots of crystals shaped like boxes. Pretty, isn't it? Here's another kind of crystal. Isn't it fancy? Maybe you already know what this kind of crystal is. That's right, it's a snowflake, which is a crystal of ice. People didn't even know that a snowflake was so beautiful until people like Hooke started using the microscope. Fascinated by what he saw and growing more curious, he began looking at living things like plant leaves. Imagine his surprise when he looked at a plant leaf and found that it was made of these oddly shaped things. He decided to call them cells. And so, by using the microscope, Robert Hooke learned that all living things, big and small, are made of tiny living parts. Let's take a look at a model of a cell. This model is designed to give you an idea of what the important parts of a cell are. All around the outside is a thin skin. This thin skin, or cell membrane, holds together some watery, jelly-like stuff inside. The watery stuff, here and everywhere, has a name, cytoplasm. That sounds nice. You say it. Cytoplasm. Many different parts of the cell, as you can see, float around inside the cytoplasm. One of these parts, and the most important one, is here in the center. See this? It's called the cell nucleus. It's important because it has the job of telling the cell what to do. And a cell can do things. It can take in food and oxygen and water. It makes waste. It can make new materials. And it can grow. Exactly how the cell knows that it's supposed to grow and exactly what the cytoplasm is made of that makes it alive are big mysteries, and many people are trying to solve it. Some things are known, but there are many things waiting to be discovered, perhaps by you. But there are even bigger mysteries than a single cell and how it grows. What about a baby like Val? Who's Val? Val's a little boy, 11 months old. He's the son of a friend of mine who's working, so Val's staying here with me for the day. What's so mysterious about a baby? Well, like you, Val started as one cell. And look at him. He's grown into a 20-pound human being. And even now, right this very minute, Val is growing into a full-grown man. Think of it. Oh, it will happen. Don't worry. I was bald and toothless and this size once myself. Now, how is Val, with his little feet and legs, his little hands and arms, his little body and his little head, going to grow? If he's made of tiny cells, how is he going to get bigger? How are his bones and muscles, his stomach and heart, his skin and his hair going to grow? Val, will you come with me? Come on. Remember the house and how I made the wall bigger? I added more blocks to it, didn't I? Well, just as the wall here grew bigger by my adding more blocks, your body grows bigger by adding more cells. That's right. From the time that you were the size of Val, you have added millions and millions of cells, and by the time you get to be the size of me, you will have added billions more. Let's see how this can happen. Here's a cell that is as big as it's going to be, and the nucleus, the pink dot in the center with the black specks in it, has just mysteriously told the cell that it's time to make another cell. Something happens first in the center of the cell. The nucleus breaks up, and the things that were inside the nucleus begin to split themselves into two identical parts. This picture, taken a little later, shows the splitting apart even more clearly. Where you saw one set of black spots called chromosomes, there are now two identical sets of black spots, all within the one cell membrane. Now the separation of the parts of the nucleus inside the cell has gotten so far along that something is beginning to happen to the outside, to the cell membrane. Do you see the dents in the cell membrane? What do you think is going to happen next? There, it happened. The cell membrane folded in and made a complete circle around each new nucleus. The cytoplasm, you see, divided into two parts. So where we started with one cell, we now have two, and they are identical or exactly alike. Now I want to show you a movie of a real cell dividing. It takes about an hour for a cell to divide, but the movie is speeded up. So watch closely. This is something you don't have a chance to see very often. See the black specks or spots, the chromosomes, floating around in the cytoplasm? You can see the cytoplasm moving. Well, the black spots are breaking up and splitting into two identical sets. And now they're separating and going to the two opposite sides of the cell. Remember, this is all happening inside of one cell. And now, stand by what's going to happen next. That's right. The cell membrane completely surrounds those two, and we have two cells instead of where there was one. The cell that we just saw was from the area around the heart. You couldn't be made of just heart cells, though, could you? And then you wouldn't be you. Instead, you'd be just one gigantic heart. No, that's a pretty ridiculous idea. Obviously, you're made of many more than one kind of cell. You're made of many different kinds of cells, all working together, helping to make you you. There are cells that make bones and cells that make muscles. There are cells that make blood, and there are cells that store fat, and so on. Let's go back to the microscope and take a look at some of these different kinds. This is a piece of bone. Bone is made of living cells, which you can see here as dark patches. They are surrounded by white, hard material, which is not alive. The cells make this hard stuff that gives bone its firmness and strength. It is this white hard stuff you think of as bone, such as in your skeleton. But the white bone would not exist if the living cells were not there to make it. This time, you are looking at the kind of cells that allow parts of your body to move. Can you guess? Yes, muscle cells. Here you see one sort of muscle cells. The shape of these cells is quite different from others we have seen. They are long and skinny with pointed ends, and even the dark nucleus is long and skinny. Bundles of these cells lying side by side make up your muscles. This slide shows clearly how very different two kinds of cells can be and still be working right next to each other. The long, skinny ones are the kind we just saw. Muscle cells. And the fat, round ones are called gland cells. They make one of the many special juices your body needs. Do you see both of these different kinds of cells? Good. These bluish-purple cells remind me of an octopus. They are nerve cells. Nerve cells all over your body carry messages, either to your brain or from your brain. They have several arms sticking out so that each nerve cell can touch the next nerve cell to pass the message along. And these interesting shapes are liver cells. They're busy taking the material from the food you eat, turning it into new materials, and sometimes storing them for a while until you need them. These cells look quite chubby and full. And the nucleus in each is easy to see, isn't it? Did you know that that red liquid in your body, your blood, is also made of cells? Here are 100 or more red and white blood cells. The red ones are shaded, and the white ones are light in color. And there are also a few young red blood cells which show up much darker. The red cells pick up oxygen in your lungs and carry it around your body. The white blood cells help you to get rid of germs. They tackle germs that get into your blood and try to eat them. They may look harmless, but they're not to a germ. So, what have we learned so far by looking at all these pictures of cells? Well, we've learned that all the cells in your body aren't alike. They're not the same size, or the same shape, or the same color. Why do you suppose this is? You're on the right track if you think it's because they do different things. Yes, they do. Each kind of cell is made the way it is because it has a certain job to do, and no other kind of cell can do that job. You've learned a whole bunch of new things today, and I'll bet the next time you look at yourself, you'll see yourself in a new way. Because now you'll know, when you look at yourself, that your stomach and your heart, your muscles, your bones, your hair, your brain, your eyes, your nose, your ears, your mouth, your tongue, all are made of cells. And you also know that it takes many different kinds of cells, all working together to make you what you are. Remember this: from the top of your head to the tip of your toes, you are a beautiful bundle of billions of cells.
All About You is a project of the Agency for Instructional Television.